भाषात्मा तस्मै सर्वात्मने नमः. Om Shanti Shanti. An interesting story. It is the 21st chapter in this Yoga Vaisistha, Essence of Yoga Vaisistha book. And this is about the Bhushundo Pakyanam, the story of Bhushundo. It's a very interesting story. Of course, let me also give a part of the story, which is not there in this, but otherwise in some of the texts they are available. A lot of ideas are in the form of stories. As I said, the stories themselves are not very important, but the message that it conveys is very important. It so happened that that Rama is the incarnation of Vishnu, and Vishnu's Vahana, Vishnu's the carrier is Garuda, the whole big bird, eagle, and it so happened, the story goes this way, that when Rama was in exile and he lost Sita, and then he was crying in the forest and then going. And then Garuda happened to go around on the sky, and suddenly he to these two, Rama and Lakshmana, who are walking. Immediately, first thing that he recognizes that it must be his Lord, Rama. But then later on, any support in the dress of these rishis and all that, and also crying helplessly. He cannot be like that. He is somebody who preserves the whole world, so universe, creation. And how can he be standing there helplessly? So he just ignores and goes ahead, thinking that this may be somebody. And then he happened to land in Meru Parvata, and that's what is the Himalayas, northeastern part of Ishanya part of the Meru Parvata. There, this person is there by name Bhushandu. He is also a crow. And then he goes to him, and they all go to this advice to take the advice from Bhushandu. That's a very common thing. And then he said that, I felt somebody who is walking in the forest is like Vishnu, but then I saw that in the mendicant, the Rishi's dress and all that, crying helplessly and then walking on the ground. So I thought that he may not be the thing. Immediately Bhushandu, by his extraordinary vision, and also he is somebody who knows the past, present, and future. That's what is the description of Bhushandu. He says, "Oh my God, you have made a mistake. And this is something which is very drastic. And you should go and approach and then ask pardon. This kind of mistake is something which is dangerous. And often what happens is that we mistake somebody to an ordinary person, but he is the divinity. So therefore, it is whether it is the Vishnu or not. If somebody is in distress and you were there, it was supposed to be your responsibility to go and see that what help that you could offer. And in particularly the case of Rama, he was supposed to, what you've seen is Rama only, and then you have mistaken it." And how did you know about that? Then Bhushandu gives a story that I also mistook him at one point of time, and therefore I repented later. And then Bhushandu gives his own story. That's also not here, but it's available in some other Ramayana text, where Bhushandu says, when I saw that a small little boy there in Ayodhya in the palace, that he was crying, and mother tries to console him, and it's not one mother, several mothers. They're trying to see that he is satisfied. So all these things were happening. I was watching that, and then for a moment I thought that this is Lord is crying and all that, but then next moment, when a small little simple trick that Narada does, Narada happened to come there and say that, look, Rama was crying to get the moon. He wanted to hold the moon. He wanted to get the moon. But then he said, okay, you just got a plate of water. And then he showed moon as a reflection of the water and said, so now this is your moon, so you have it, you keep it. Rama was satisfied. and he was happy. Then Vishnu thought, such ignorant fellow, he may not be the Lord. Meanwhile, what happened was that mother served uh, roti for him, Indian bread, and then Rama was just playing with that little baby Rama, and then Bushundo just picked it up. And picked it up, he cried. And again, Bushundo tried to, and he tried to grab from the crow, but then the crow started flying. When the crow started flying, then this baby Rama to realize that he's not the child, he must be the incarnation. So, therefore, basically, he fell at the feet of Rama and then asked for his pardon. I did the similar kind of a mistake of mistaking this child to be the not to be the Vishnu, but then you also did the same thing. So, such a sweet story. That means to say, small little thing that we get into the illusion. People like even Garuda and also the mm, Hamsa and also the Bushundo, when they can get into the trap of it, who are we? We are two small persons. So we should be very careful and we should not take anything lightly and we should seriously do it. This is the kind of story that is prevalent about the sage Bushundo. Now, this Bushundo, this story in 21st chapter in the Yoga Vasishtha, Vasishtha himself talks about this story. And then he says, Atrate Kathayishyami Vrittantam Paramadbhutam, an extraordinary, wonderful story I will narrate about this. Shatatapo Munipraha Purasthane Shatakrato. And a matter, I shall tell you this wonderful narration. The sage of Shatatapas told formerly in the assembly of Indra, the king of the demigods. The Shatatapa told the story to Indra in that. Mero Ishana Konastha Kalpavrikshastamardhani Kaschit Nivasati Shriman Bhushundo Nama Vayasaha. Vayasa is a crow. So he says that on the top of the uh, this is what is called as uh, Kalpavrikshasya. Kalpavriksha means what you want, you will get it. Whatever that you want, that the tree provides you. There are stories about the Kalpavriksha, how important it was and how it humbled. It is so strong that it humbled persons like Vishwamitra. Now here it is Valmiki, Vasishtha. Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, contemporary. And Vishwamitra is humbled by this particular tree at one point of time before he became a sannyasi. And what made him to become a go for sannyasi and later on become Brahmarshi. So in that story, that also story comes in Ramayana. And there Vishwamitra was humbled by this tree that is there, because basically it is the wish fulfilling tree. And the story goes that in Vasishtha's place itself, this particular tree was there, and that is the Kalpavriksha. And then Vishwamitra was a king at that time. Then he came to Vasishtha's place with the whole team of army, the huge lot army, and then Vasishtha just makes them to accept his uh, hospitality. Vishwamitra denied, saying that, look, I'm not the only person that here. I have got all this army with me, so therefore, please pardon me. So we will go back. Said, no, no, for all of you that we provide. So in minutes that he provided food for thousands of army and all those things, whatever that is necessary, place to rest and everything, he was surprised. Where did you get it? And in this forest, how could you manage it? He said, this is what the Kalpavriksha did it. Then now the desire entered into him, the greed entered into Vishwamitra, said, I would like to have it. Vishwamitra said, Vasishtha said, no, don't do it, because basically that people who are in the world, their whole purpose is that they do not get anything by asking. They should actually strive for themselves. That's why we have the mantra. Vishwamitra himself has given us the Gayatri mantra. Dhyo yona prachodaya. That means to say, make us to see that we strive for ourselves. We don't want to have any free free meal. So this is what. But then no, I need so many things, and in kingdom we can provide for everything. It makes you lazy. It's not right. But then Vishwamitra, he used his force to drag this. I mean, Kamadhenu, that's what is the crow. And these are the two things, Kamadhenu and Kalparuksha. These are the things which provide him. So, like this Kalparuksha was there in the case of this thing, but later on that Kamadhenu defeated him and then came back. So, Kalparuksha is here. I'm sorry, mistaken to Kalparuksha to Kamadhenu story. But anyway, this is there and which provides anything that you want. And on that, the tree itself is like that, and on that top of the tree, this Bushandu sage is staying. So, Mero Ishana Konasta, Kalparukshasya Murthani. So, at the top of the Kalparuksha, and then this sage, because he's a crow, therefore he stays on the tree. Kaschit Nevasati Shriman Bhushundu Nama Vaisaha. So, as a crow by name, Bhushundu, dignified sage, he dwells on that. So, Shrantamati Shanto Vitarago Mahamatihi Chiranjeevi Tatha Swarge Nabuto Nabhavishyati. He is one whose thought has ceased. He is quietened and then is calm, free from passions. He has no passions at all. That's what he says. Shantaha Vitaragaha. And then Mahamatihi, and he's high minded, large minded. And then Chiranjeevi, that means he's ever living, long lived, one like him. And then never was and will be in the heaven. And such a person is never there in the heaven or any other place. And such a person, Bhushandu, is staying there on this Kalpavruksha. Idam Sutva Chatam Drushtam Aham Yata Kutuhalat Kalpadrumastha Madraksham Bhushundam Dvijase Dvija Sevitam. Having heard this, then Vasishtha says that I went to see him. Out of curiosity, I saw Bhushundu worshipped by the Brahmanas and seated on the Kalparvusha, Kalpataru. And this Kalpatri is the mythical, wish fulfilling kind of a yielding tree in the heaven. Ashankitamapi praptam vasishtamava buddhyamam arthapadyadi sampadyam ma uvacha thagadipaha. Then, having known Vasishtha, he arrived, though having no doubt the king of birds spoke to him after having provided water for washing the feet and other respectful offerings. That means to say, taking care of him with a proper uh, manner, in the proper manner. Kimartham agadyamanam आद्यमानम आज्ञां मे वर्तुमर्हसि इत्युक्तोहम तदा पृच्छम जातः कस्मिन् कुले भवान् किमथ आयुश्च ते साधो ज्ञातज्ञेयः कथं भवत् भवान् इति पृष्ठो भुषुण्डोषि प्रमुक्तम् उपचक्रमे. So, for what purpose have you arrived, O real sage? And you desire to give me your command. You tell me, what should I do? Bhushunda is so humble. Thus told, I then asked him, to what family that was your honor birth? Where were you born, O sage? How much is, what's your age? And how is your honor known? What is to be known? How has you, your honor, known what has to be known? And asked for Bhushundu, prepare to speak. What is that which made you to this particular realization? What is the path that you have followed for this particular realization today, that what you have achieved? So give me that hint. What practices, what is the path that you have followed? For that, Bhushundu replies saying that Harasya Prathama Yadvat Parivaro hi Mataraha Jayasa Vijaya Chaiva Jayanti Chaparajita Siddha Raktya Lambusa Chapyutpalaha Cheti Vishruta Katachit Militaha Chakruhu Utsavam Paramambuda. The as there were these pramathas were the divine beings attending to Shiva, and these are also semi-divine. They were also there are divine female attendants, the mothers, known as Jaya, Vijaya, and Jayanti and Aparajiti. Jaya, Vijaya were supposed to be there at the doorstep of Vishnu, and then Jayanti, Aparajiti, these are the ladies, and Siddha, Rakta, Kalambhusha, and Utla, and sometime came together. They performed the chief festival with joy. So these are all the names: Rakta, Alambusha, and Cha, Apyul, Utpala. So Utpala, and all these people, they were there. Tada Tam Samcha Vahascha Nanrutuhu Papulasamam Vajjastritundadam Chandastha Kako Alamba Saratha. Then even the birds carrying them had danced and drunk intoxicated liquor. And the crow named Chanda, with a steel-like bony beak, was the vehicle for Alambusa. And he was about the story. And then the female attendants had female swans in their vehicle. And these female swans spotted with a crow. Then these swans, which were pregnant, brought forth in course of time 24 sons, born out of eggs in the large lake belonging to Brahma, the creator. According to the mythology, Manasa is the Manasa lake, Kailasa Manasa Sarovara, is said to be the native place of these swans. Today also what is Kailas Manasa Sarovar is the place. It is supposed to be the place where these celestial beings or the swans are there. Evam tabhyastu hamsi bhyo jata bayam ime mune. Now, it is Hamsa and then this Hamsi. The sage, we are here born from these Hamsis. Hamsi is the female swans, and then we are born out of that. Kalpanteshu sthitihi. And then Matrubhihi saha Hamsi bhihi Brahmi bhavati tatha. Therefore, along with our mother swans, the goddess Brahmi is the wife of Brahma, was worshipped by us, Chiram, Aradhitasmabhihi, Asmabhihi, by worshipped by us for a long time. Then we were blessed by her, intent on favoring us in such manner that we remain liberated. So, Tathaivanu Gurhitaha, so Brahmis Anugurhita, that means to say blessings, they, so Ismo, Yatha Mukti Vayam Sthitaha. Mukta vayam sthitaha. Mukta means liberated, that's what we are. Santripta manasah shantaha svekante dhyana samsthito tishthamayiti nischitya pituhu parshve vayam gataha. We shall remain tranquil and with satisfied minds in solitude in the state of meditation. Thus having resolved, we went near our father. Then we went to the father and wanted to be there in that tranquil state and a peaceful state. Tenayam sarvabhathayam agamya kalpapadapa kathitam sthanam asmakam tishtamotra gatajvaraha adyate supalam punyam bhagavadagamane. The kalpa tree, inaccessible to all disturbances, absolutely peaceful, there is nothing that is available there, was indicated by him as our place of residence, and we remained here free from any of the anxieties that were necessary. Today, the merit of my good deeds were borne fruits by the way that you have come here. The good deeds and tapas that we do is going to bring about the sages to us. In fact, we have the story of Ramakrishna when he was deeply involved in that tapas and the penance. Great sages had to come to him, and then they were guiding him. And that's what we have stories of Bhairavi Brahmani coming there and guiding him. And also before that, even the Totapuri has come and guided him. So like that, all these things show that These great people who are realized and then who are satisfied with in their life, they have nothing to do. Their whole idea is to see that how to guide or give company to this kind of people. So therefore, Bhushandu says that all these years that I've done the tapas and staying that peaceful, quiet, and all those things brought you here. So your coming here is like the way that it is the fulfillment uh, of the yearning that we had for the spiritual development. So, having thus spoken, when he stopped, I told him that, Lord of birds, what reason your brothers of such nature, noble minded, are not seen here, but you alone are here? So, Bhrataraste Vihangeshaha Tadrukastva Mahadhyaha Iha Kasmat Nadrishyante Tvamevaiko Drishyate. You see, you said that your brothers and all that you are born to that Brahmi by the blessing of the Brahmi. And with all those things that now only you are there, the others are not seen. We only came across you, the others are not there. For that, Bhushunda replies, saying that, Tishtatam ihanah kalo mahani atigato mune yuganam panteh kshinaha kalpanam cha mahamate. O noble-minded sage, to us remaining here a very long time have passed away. So we have been there for such a long time that so many yugas have passed, a series of yugas and kalpas have worn away. This is the concept that we have, that year is one cycle, and then bigger than the year that we have the 60-year cycle. Like that, we have saved several cycles over and above bigger cycles and bigger cycles. So, like that, we have these four yugas are supposed to be the cycles of four, which are in the form of Satyuga, Krita Deta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. These four yugas are there. So in front of me, all these four yugas have passed, and these four yugas are supposed to be one kalpa. Kalpa means one that is born. So that means to say the birth starts with that yuga, and then these four yugas are complete, and then that is one kalpa is over. Another kalpa comes. The idea is kalpa is a repetition of the same details that were there in the previous kalpa. So yuga is there and then kalpa is there, four yugas and then kalpa. So this continuously is going on. Tishtatam ihana kale. So therefore, I remain here for such a very long time that passed away. A series of yugas and kalpas have worn away. So this is what is the way. The details that are there in the form of how many years and all those things. Let's not worry about it. The idea is that it is a huge number. That means to say we went on having a concept of that small to bigger to giant and bigger than that and all that. Etavatana kalena sarva eva samanuja tanu trunamayi tyaktva shive parinitapate. During so much time, all my brothers having given up their bodies like straw, yeah, once they are realized, and then there is only thing that they had is that this body was there. Why continue with this body? So they just came out of the body like straw, came to an end of an auspicious abode, and they become joined with the supreme abode. They become one with that. Like the way that the rivers merge into the ocean, the drops merge into the river, and our rivulets, and the rivulets merge into the river, and the river merges into the ocean. The whole thing has become one. So therefore, all my brothers, they have become one with devotion, but I remained alive. So Dirghayusho, Mahantopi, Santopi, Balinopi cha Sarvameva Nigiryante Kalena Kalitatmana. Now, even when they are long lived, great, virtuous, strong, all without exception are swallowed by time, whose nature cannot be reckoned. इत्युक्तेन मया पृष्ठो भुषुण्डो वयसादिपि कल्पान्तेषु महाबुद्धे. So now me, who is told thus, hey, by me, told by the Bhushundu, the king of the crows, was asked, noble-minded one, how do you remain free from anxiety at the close of the worldly cycle, which when violent winds blows, etc., and moon and constellations and sun are burning. So that means at the end of Kalpa, when everything is completely dissolving, when everything is going back, how did you remain free from that anxiety, from that attachment? Anxiety is brought about by the attachment with the body. How did you continue to be in this body without getting uh, uh, caught up in the anxiety about that? Yada shamyati kalpante vyavaharo jagad gataha akashayeva tisthami vigatakhila kalpanaha. When the Bhushundu says that when the affair of the world ceases to the end of the world cycle, I just remain in the space devoid of any imaginations, no kalpata. See, this is what is called as one kalpa. Uh, so, when there is a within the kalpa, then you are bound by that. When you are freed from the kalpa, that means kalpa itself is not there. First thing is that you are in the akasha. Akasha means basically there is nothing. Anything can be possible from that nothing. From that position, and then without any kalpa, without any thought, without any idea, chitta has not yet happened, prana has not yet taken any place, and that's what is the state of akasha and also akalpa. So vigata kalpa, vigatakhila kalpa, akhila kalpataha, that means small little imaginations, and akhila kalpataha, that means the whole, the creation kind of an imagination, and akhila kalpataha, and then free from that, vigataha. So, patapanti yadatitya vyomangana agano hyaham varuni dharuni badhva tatha tishtami dhirathi. When the sun burns, and then I remain with the composed mind situated in the area of the sky, in the space, having performed the concentration of the mind related to the ocean and the water. So, when the sun is burning, the whole thing is gone into the burning. What does not get into the burning is that what is the water, and that's what is the ocean. So, I become one with the ocean when the sun is burning, so that ocean remains and rest of it is getting burned. Idea is that I take the opposite view. This is what Patanjali also gives us the idea very beautifully, that Maitri Mudita Upekshanam Sukadukka Punya Apunyanam. Wherever there is Pratipaksha Bhavanat, that's what he says. Pratipaksha Bhavana is that Bhavana which does not give fodder to the particular Bhavana that is there. That means to say anger is not being foddered. Similarly, that your hatred is not being foddered. That's what is the position that you take, so that those things do not have the feed. Then they dissolve. The same way that you take the Pratipaksha Bhavana, that is the idea of saying that you concentrate or you focus, or he says that Parvatim Dharanim Badhva Ke Tishtami Achalam Tatha. So here I do my dharana on this aspect of it. Dharana means that I hold on to that. Jagat Galitamarvada Yatye Akarnavata Yada Vayavi Dharanam Badhva Samplavi Achaladhi Tatha. When the Meru and other mountains vanish, when the earth is vanishing from the world and are reduced to the state of universal deluge, there's only nothing but a deluge, then performing the dharana on the mind of air, I floated about by the steady intellect with a steady. So my intellect has been just quietened, and then I stay in the sky. That means again, this is a Patvaksha Bhavana, which does not get hurt by that. So I get into that. It's like the way that a simple example, that analogy that we can bring about is that when we are caught up in a dream, a bad dream where a murder is behind you, that you are running for your life, and then you're just caught up and all those things, what you need to do, that you don't have to fight with the murderer, or you don't want to find out where you can hide or anything. Just wake up. So this is the idea of waking up, is the way that you come out. At every stage that where the kalpanta is taking, that you wake up from that and then go to a state where the kalpanta doesn't hurt you. Now here, it is not that time-wise that there is some time where that kalpanta takes place. It is constantly happening within us, constantly happening within us. But then you take a position where it is not going through a cycle, but you are freed from that cycle, birth and death cycle. Then you are free from that. Whatever that is born is going to die, including the sun, moon, and all those things. That's what we have seen in the Upanishad. Or in Bhagavad Gita also it says, Brahma Bhuvana Lokat Punaravartinorjuna. Yes, these are things which are coming and going. But Mam Upetya to Kaunteya, hey Arjuna, then you hold on to me. That means to say, you wake up from that, whatever that is undergoing that change. Punajanmana vidyate, you are free from that. This is what is the expression that is given for this idea. In Bhagavad Gita, that's the expression that Bhushundu gives here, saying that so Jagat Galitamev me Meruadi Jagat Galitam Yat Ekarnavatan Arnavatan Tada. That means to say, I hold on to the water. Vayavi Dharanam Badhva. I get into the Vayu aspect of it when Samplave Achaledhi. Then when the ocean is going to become a deluge, becomes occupied, then I become Vayu. Then Samplave Chalitethi Tatha. So I float about this study of the intellect. Brahmanda Paramasadya Tatvante Vimalepade Sushupta Avastitya Tavat Tishtam Yatal Rupaya. When having reached this furthest limits of the universe, I remain indeed the pure, stainless abode, the limit of reality. For the ultimate reality, the state of profound repose, immovable in nature. So when it comes to the level of the whole creation is going to be eliminated at the time, hold on to that joint where it is just at the threshold of going into unmanifest. So that unmanifest, when I'm there, this whole change that will take place, and then again I can come back with that manifestation. So it's a wonderful Vichitra Anubhava experience. When the lotus born Brahma, the creator God, again occupies himself with the work of creation, then entering into the universe, I remain in the abode of birth, in the abode of birds and on the tree. So this is another very interesting idea, is that, as I said earlier, that Abrahma Bhuvana Lokat, that means the Brahmaloka also comes and goes. And when the Brahmaloka is in, that's the time where it is Mahapralaya. That means nothing is there at that time. Again, the Brahma is recreated and then takes his position of a creator and sustain and destroy. All these positions are created, which are, according to our mythology, that's the way creation, at the back of the creation, these forces are there. So once that Brahma takes up, then again, and he establishes himself, he says that when the lotus born Brahma, the creator God, again occupies himself with the work of creation. Yavat Punaha Kamala Jaha. This idea of Brahma with Kamala Jaha is very simple, very beautiful. Born out of Kamala. Kamala itself is something which is not touched by the water. Though it is there in the water, it is bed and food, everything is water. And or the dirt that may be there. And then this lotus which is born in the water is something freed from that. It does not get attached by that. That's why we always say Padma Patra Vambhasa, like the way that lotus on the water, not touched by. The lotus itself is something which is not touched by the water, then Brahman is there in that lotus. The whole conceptual picture is that Brahman is never touched by this creation, never becomes part of this particular creation, though creation comes out of him. So when this creation comes out of him, then that is what basically the Kalparuksha that is there. And then I take an abode myself on that Kalparuksha. So yavat punaha kamalajaha srishti karmani tishtati tavat pravishyam brahmandam tishtami belagalaye. So that means to say, on the top of the tree, then I make my abode. Just therefore, the force of my will in every world cycle again and again, the tree comes into being like this at the top of that very mountain. So the whole kalpa that takes place, matsya kalpanta vashe naiva, matsyam kalpa vashantam vashe naiva, kalpe kalpe punaha punaha. This is repeated. Asminneva gire shrunge, on this Meru Parvata, and then on that Shrunga, top of it, Taruhu Ityam Bhavatyam Mama. So I stay here. Now let me give you another idea that we do the Pinda Pradhana, that means to say when we offer the oblations to the departed souls. Our idea is to see that we feed the crows. The crow will come and eat this thing. So we keep it in the roof. These days, in the cities, crows are not there, only the pigeons are there, the pigeons eat. Idea why the crows are there, there is another theory also about the crows. The crow is the bird that never dies, it never has a death. Bushundi is also a crow. Unless until that there's some accident, or maybe this bird flu is there these days, that we contaminated the whole universe, therefore that bird flu is there. Because of that, the crows will die. Otherwise, the crows are not supposed to be are the species who do not die at all. Bushundu, therefore, is one representing the head of all those crows, all the species. And that's why he comes again and again. He lives there in this creation all the time. Now, what is the difference between somebody who is there, unmanifest for eternity, that means to say beyond any time, or in the manifest for eternity beyond any time? Both the cases beyond any time, both the cases he is there, pleasant. So either way, it's all right. His brothers preferred to be at an unmanifest level, and he preferred to be at the manifest level. It's all the simple thing. Vaisistha vacha yatha tishtasi pakshindra dharanasi akhanditaha. So among the birds, for what reason other yogis do not remain or exist at the end of the whole cycle, as you remain undisturbed or everything through your steady contemplation. So kalpanteshu tatha kasmin nanye tishtati yoginaha. No other yogis, they stay like that, but then you stay at the end of the kalpante. Bushandu vacha. Bushandu says that indeed is the dispensation of the Supreme Lord. Maybe that's the order of the Supreme Lord, which is difficult to be violated. I can't even violate that. I'm bound by that. It is to be to accomplish, so accomplished by me, by this kind, and not to accomplished by those of that kind. It is this way that I am, and others are in a different way. Brahman niyatiresha he. This is the way that Brahman niyati he is. Durlanghya Parameshwari. This is very important word. Many times it is used in the Vedanta. Durlanghya Parameshwari. That means God's ways you cannot overcome. Durlanghya Parameshwari. The God's plan, we have to follow that. Actually, that God's form, God's plan, when we accept it, then what happens? We can take the life as Leela, as a play, because it's God's plan. In His plan, that we are like the pawns in that plan, then we continue to that. Idurshena maya bhavyam. So, because of that, by His grace that I am in this, bhavyam nanyeti tadrushaihi. Others do not have that kind of thing. So, Vasistha Vaha, blessed one, what wonderful things do you remember in this succession of the words? So naturally that you have followed this life after life after life, the yuga after yuga, then kalpa after kalpa. So therefore, that there must be some wonderful experience that you can pass on to us. Kim kim swarasi kalyanam chitramasmin jagat kathe. Then he says, Mushunda says, I remember the earth below, and without its multitude of mountains, forest, trees, and the birth of the moon, the sun, and the like, all these things they come. Arrangement of Indra, the lord of demigods, and his younger brother, and all those things that are there, and Hiranyaksha, the deliverance of Varaha, incarnation of Vishnu as a boar, generation of oceans and the churning of the ocean for sake of nuclear of immortality, nectar of immortality. So whatever that has been described in the Puranas, I come across that, I see that. That's what is the way that I experience these things. Munete Brahma Putrasya Janmashtasyama. And then indeed the eighth birth of you as a son of Brahma, the Hari, Lord Vishnu, has come. And Parashurama, the incarnation of the son of Renuka, for the sixth time here. So he is giving all the other Purana stories about it. I remember 30 conflicting of Tripuras, the three cities of demons burned by Shiva, and the destruction aspect of the god, two destructions of the religious sacrifices, Daksha and the son of Brahma. Whatever that is given in the Puranas, I see all those things are there, and Bhushandu describes about that. And also the 16th birth of Sri Krishna, Krishna coming there, and will happen in the house of Vasudeva. So this points out, and the more important thing is, these verses point to the cyclical nature of the universal events through mythological illusion, and the Yoga Vasishtha drives home many universal truths. The narrative contained the grand treasure of the Jnana and Yoga. It should be remembered as allegorical in nature. So, so the delusion in the form of the world does not exist at any time, but it also exists sometime, remaining like the bubble of water. Bhrantireva jagadrepa nakadachit na vidyate. Vidya is a very important aspect. The way that all these things, whatever that comes, yugas and all those things that happening. It's like the jalabudbhutaha. That means to say the soap bubble, the water bubble that's there on the soap. Inside there is nothing, outside there is nothing. When you remove that bubble, when you break that bubble, there is nothing that is left behind. So that's what is the way that this creation takes place. So this creation is basically does not exist anything other than a spandana that created, given an illusion of a creation. It's a spandana which creates the illusion of it. And what is that in which that spandana can take place is what is called as the prana. So therefore, the reflection of the prana, and this prana is something which is basically the spandana itself is the prana, and that prana spandana is the one which gives an idea of a creation. Scientists today is coming to that kind of a conclusion. For a long time, scientists said that matter exists and nothing else exists. And that's where he went on trying to understand this prana, matter. And the way that he understands the matter is by breaking the matter into pieces, into smaller and smaller units. When he went into the smaller and smaller units, finally it came to the atom. And further he broke the atom into, and then it became electron, neutron, proton. Suddenly matter vanished. And what remained is only the energy. So therefore, matter does not exist. The idea is that they wanted to establish the existence of matter, but in the process that their whole effort of going into the existence of matter resulted into matter itself is lost, and what they're left with is energy. But then energy, when they look into, they see that energy part of it is so little, and the vacuum part or the shunya part is so much that even the energy part is nothing. All that exists is something which is in the form of a black hole, the nothingness that is there. This has been our people said that earlier, that matter does not exist. All that is something which comes from the nothing, and the manifestation takes place. This is what Indian philosophy always said it. Now science is coming to that conclusion. Charatam jagatah koshe vyavaharavatam katham vihagarajendra deham mrityusab nabadate. So Vaisistha, so king of gods, how is it that death does not affect this body? Charatam jagataha koshe, even those moving about within this world and having their efforts and occupation, vyavaharavatam api, I mean, there is a vyavahara that's going on, there is an activity that's going on, all these different koshas that are there. Katham Vihaga Rajendra, who said, Deham Mrityuna Bhatate. How is that you are not affected by the death? And Bhushandu now replies saying that this is the portion which is important for us, saying that Dosha Mukta Phala Prokta Vasana Tantu Santati. Hridihi Nagradhita Yasya Mrityuhu Tamna Jighamsati. Ashayamna Dahatyantaha Mrityuhu Tamna Jighamsasi. The death does not seek to kill him, in whose heart the continuous line of the thread of mental impressions passing through the pearls of faults or the sins is not stung. Death does not wish to kill him, whom hope does not burn within. So, Hrudina Gradhita Yasya, what is that kind of Vasana Tantu Santati? Vasana, the continuous, the stream of vasanas, when all those things, they doshamukta phalaprokta, doshamukta. That means all these things do not burn somebody, do not hold on to somebody. And such a person, Mrityu does not hold on to it. See, that means vasana santati. What happens is one vasana leading to another to third to vasana. So this way, when we have these vasana santati, a beautiful way said that it is the whole family of vasanas that we have. Hriti nagradita yasya. When this nagradita, that means to say when it is not, mrityu does not even touch them, cannot touch them. Asha yamna dahatyantaha. And the asha, and the desire is not burning somebody, kyu tamna jagamsasi. That means to say, what is that? That the impression of death comes to somebody. The death is, why the impression of a death, why the force of a death is hangs on somebody is that because that he has still some things to fulfill, some things to take care of it, some things to achieve. So when he has all those things naturally, then the instrument that he has becomes very important. He's identified with this instrument called as the body. Mrityu happens this body, not only this body, this intellect, this mind, and all those things. This whole complex that is there is the instrument with which that he is wanting to get all that accomplished. So that's why a lot of people they say that yeah, I don't mind death, but only thing is I should not become like an insane person. That means to say I do not want to go into uh, that intellectual death. So much of knowledge, so much of this thing is there, and then we see somebody. Actually, that's what happens in our mind also. That when you see somebody who has been very intelligent and extraordinary and all those things that were there intellectually, guide for some. Suddenly, you see that there is something like a brain death. There is something like that. His functionality has come down. He is like becomes like a baby. Oh my God. Then we start thinking that I should not go through that kind of a stage. I might, similarly, that you use the body, that all the limbs are very nice, but suddenly paralytic stroke is there. Some part of the body do not function. Then you start thinking that, oh, I should not suffer this kind of a thing. I should not depend on somebody. So all these thoughts come because basically that that we are identified ourselves as much as with the body, so much with the intellect, so much with our abilities to do those things, and so much with our internal various faculties that are there. We identify with that. All these things are our identification. What are supposed to be the koshas? Kosha means it's an external thing, external support that was there. And because of these koshas that are there, that we get caught up in this kind of a thing. We get caught up in this thing. Such a person is a person that who death is something which touches him. That means he becomes afraid of death. Whereas somebody who does not have identification with any of these koshas, whether it is the intellect or the mind or the body, any of those things, such a person is a person who is not touched by the death. Dosha mukta phala prokta. This is what is dosha mukta phala. That means to say we are free from the dosha, identification with the body. And then that is what is the kama krodha vihino yaha mrityuhu tamna jighamsasi yasya chittam suishrantam pade paramapavane. The death does not seek to kill him who is without any desires. Absolutely, there is no desire at all. He's totally free from all the kind of desires. And then anger and yasya chittam suvishrantam. What a beautiful word it is. Vishrantam itself is peace, but it is this kind of a profound peace, such a profound peace that it is in suvishrantam pade paramapavane. And this Paramapavana is a very beautiful idea. Pavana itself is something which is very good in the sense that what we know is good and bad, right and wrong. So one opposite to the other. But then Pavana is something where it does not have any opposite. Let me make a clarification. Then there is a truth, Satya, but then Satya is and also has an opposite called as Asatya. Tell the truth, but then tell lie also, that is there. But normally the truth that we identify is that truth which does not have which has the idea of lie behind it. I should not tell a lie, so I have to tell the truth. This one way. Similarly, what I do in the form of, say, himsa, practice of ahimsa, with an idea of that himsa behind there, I should not practice it, I should not do himsa, therefore I should practice ahimsa. It's always paired. And then out of the pair that we select the good thing, fine, that's nice. That makes you moral. But here the question is about the Parama Pavana. Pavana is something which is supposed to be the one which does not have the pair of opposite. That means the other thing is not there. And that too, it is supposed to be Parama Pavana. That means an exalted state of Pavana. That means it can never be exhausted. So that is what is the idea that yasya chittam suvishrantam pade paramapavane nachanchalam mano yasya tam mrityuhu na jigamsasi. Death does not touch that. These are the things where the death cannot affect you. That's what it is. Ete brahman mahadosha samsara vyadhihetavah managato na lupyanti chittam ekasamahitam. So who says these great faults which are the cause of the disease of worldly existence, mahadosha, kama, krodha, and then vasana, all these things are the mahadosha, and these great dosha, these great faults, which are the causes of the disease of the worldly existence, do not seize the mind, which is firm and composed, even a little. One who seizes that, then this is what is basically important. This is what is the idea that we have come to this time, this talk, the title of that, Atmachinta Mahasreshtha Sarva Sankalpa Vrajita. All these sankalpas belong to the body, belong to the Panchakoshas, belong to the world outside. All these things belong to the Panchakoshas, the world outside. Whereas when the and as long as that we are doing the chinta of that, that means that chinta is going to give us the vasana. When you take away that chinta from all these objects onto the self, this is what is Atma Chinta. Now, what is the way Atma Chinta? Is it that I'm going to sit and think of it that I have an Atman, I have an Atman, I have an Atman? That's the way that you do the Atma Chinta? No, that's not the way. Atma Chinta is, as Mandukya Upanishad puts it, that all other chintas, when you drop it, then it becomes Atma Chinta. Nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati. That itself is a state of Atma Chinta. There is nothing that I'm connected with the outside. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm not seeing anything. Nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati. So therefore that I'm in the state of Atma. We are established in the Atma Sthita. Atma Sthiti is the way that Atma Chinta, and this is what is the highest of the thing. Every time that you get involved in the activity, fine, but the moment that you finish that activity, come back to the self, go to the self. This is what is being in the self is Atmachinta Mahasrishtha, Sarva Sankalpa Varjitaha, Sarva Dukkha Sarva Saubhagyadayini. These are the two words which are very important. One is that Dukkha Kshayakari, and the other thing is Saubhagyadayini. That means to say, we have these two aspects of it. One is called the Sukha, and the other is the Dukkha. Now, all our effort has been, all our journey has been, or whatever that you say, the life struggle has been to see that how we can come out of Dukkha, how we can reduce the Dukkha, and how I can increase my state of happiness. So, Bhagya. These are the things that are there. When you look at all this technology development, everything that happened in this world, it's all because of these two reasons. One is that, see that how I can reduce the amount of dukkha that is there in the world outside. So earlier that man was in the cave, so therefore there was a fear of wild animals, this and that. So fire is created, nice houses are created. But in spite of the fact that we have created beautiful houses, nice houses, and then there's no fear of anymore these wild beasts or wild animals and all those things. Today, what happened is one small little cockroach enters into the house. Behind the cockroach, that another lizard enters into the house. You can see that the fear magnifies. The fear that was there for the sake of a tiger or a lion in the case of a caveman, same amount of fear is there in the case of when somebody is there in the he sees a lizard in the house. Somebody was saying that in Prashanti, generally these things are not there in Prashanti, but we are in the forest, so naturally sometimes some rooms that they can enter. And then one person came up and said in the morning, I did not sleep the whole night. What happened? He said, a small little lizard, I found it inside the house, inside the room, and that's all. I could not sleep. You are so big and lizard is so small. Swami Dayananda Saraswati used to make it such a nice thing that man found out net to catch any big animal. A tiger or a lion he can catch in the net. But if a mosquito comes, he goes into the net. Unfortunately, that's what is the way that man has done all those things. But have we come out of the fear? The fear, we have not come out of it. So the whole effort is to see that how we can come out of dukkha. Dukkha kshaya is the way that we are trying to find out in the world outside, doing all kinds of things. But what is the problem with the world? We are trying to find out the dukkha kshaya. Problem is that the more and more that you try to do the dukkha kshaya, that means more and more that you yourself become sensitive. You yourself become so easily reactive to the small little simple things that are there in the world outside. Look at the way a small little imperceptible kind of a creature, that's what is COVID, has arrested the whole world completely, stopped the whole world activity. What a great aspect it is. So that means to say we are trying to find out the dukkha kshaya, and that's why we are trying to do all kinds of things that are there. Vedanta doesn't say that they are bad, they're fine. In fact, man has developed. This development is necessary for us to go. But then what we found out in the process is that dukkha manifests in some form or the other. Earlier it is more with to do with the physical dukkha, but now it is more to do with the psychological dukkha also. Your mind gets affected, your intellect gets affected. So these are all the things which are there involved in that. So dukkha kshaya is something that we are looking for, and we are finding out is trying to find a solution in the world outside. Sigmund Freud tried so much to find remove the dukkha of the people, make them feel happy. At the end of the whole experience of years and years of research and application, Sigmund Freud made a statement, confessed his statement, saying that at best we can make to see that they can feel less sorrow. I cannot make them to be happy, make them less sorrow. All that analysis will help only that. But here, Bushundu says, uh, he says, Sarva Dukkha Kshayakari. What is that Sarva Dukkha Kshayakari? Sarva Dukkha Kshayakari is when you become mind peaceful, you don't have anything else desire. So earlier, whatever that he says, this dosha, you remove the doshas, then you become Sarva Dukkha Kshayakari. See, we feel that our suffering is because the world outside. I always used to give an example. Earlier days, when we were going to Prashanti, say 40 years ago, there was nothing. Morning one bus, evening one bus. Go by the evening bus, neatly dressed, and I go and sit into the bus and sit inside the bus. But that is the bus which takes all the villagers nearby, some 50 villages, and the villagers who have come to the city to spend the time in the market selling their produce. They also get into the bus. Naturally, the bus is overcrowded. Somebody sits next to me. Now the suffering starts for me. I look at him, he's dirty. He spent the whole day in the market. He smells. Maybe he has a plan to take bath when he go back home, but then I have to face that fragrance around me. So I suffer. And the more and more I look at him, more and more I suffer. And the more and more I suffer, I feel that this journey never ends. It's an eternal hell that I'm in. And this continued day after day after week after week after week, because every week that I used to go. This is where I one day realized that the problem is not because of that fellow. Problem is not because of the bus. Problem is not because that he is dirty, this and that, and all kinds of things. But problem is, I have a complaint. The complaint makes me dukkha. What is that complaint? Because for the complaint is because that I wanted something different, and it is different. It is something different. I wanted a clean atmosphere. I wanted the person to be clean. I wanted atmosphere to be clean. I wanted those things. It's my wants made me to feel miserable. But then I can't avoid it because the same bus has to carry him and me too. So one way that I can remove my dukkha is by rising above the level of complaint. I accept him. And only the way that I can accept him is with the help of love. The moment that I use the love that is there within me, love can accept that. It's not that I accept it. Love can accept anything. Love can accept any difficulty that is there. Then what happens? I don't have any more desires. I don't have any more wanting. So therefore, basically, I rise above the level of complaint. And once I raise the level of complaint, that is what the love belongs to Atma Sthiti, my own thing. Therefore, Atma Chinta Mahasreshtha. Atma Chinta is extraordinary because Atma Chinta, love, compassion, karuna, all these things come from that Atma Chinta. And that what takes away Sarva Dukkha Kshayakari. It takes away from dukkha. The second thing that keeps us running rat race in this world is that saubhagya. We would like to become rich. We would like to become more and more. We would like to have the object. And this is what is the pursuit that material world is giving us. More and more material, latest varieties of material. So our wish list, not only that we overcome whatever that's there, but another wish list we have parallelly, that One is the wish list to remove some things, and then another is the desire list to have this and that. And the desire is the cause for our misery. And there is two different ways that desire causes misery. One way is that if the desire is getting fulfilled, it's short-lived because of two reasons. One reason is that the desire gets fulfilled, and then now that becomes obsolete. In no time, that what you got becomes obsolete. You don't want it. The second way is more dangerous thing is that if something that I could get what I desired, that means to say now I can desire something which is much more. So desire goes on multiplying. Desire is like a tonic for the desire itself. I want to go for a bigger desire, so bigger misery. So the two ways that we get into that. So one way is that, second thing is that the satisfaction we don't hold on to, but we hold on to the desire, and that's what is getting nourished. So this way, when we do it, then we will never reach saubhagya. Therefore, saubhagya, really saubhagya, when we reach is that when we free ourselves from the desire, the clutches of desire, that itself is not there. I don't even have any desires. So I go to the world with the sense of overflowing myself into the world outside. Not that I go with an empty cup into the world, so I want to fill myself up. I want to go with an empty container. But I go into the world as if I am overflowing. Is it not the same way that the whole world is? Like the way look at the plants, the way that they produce flowers, fruits, and all those things is like the energy that is there within them, the capacity that's there within them, it overflows, it springs out in a beautiful situation. So that in the process of springing out, they participate in this world. This is what somebody said so beautifully, that everything else in the world is like the way that they bubble with joy in the way that they manifest in this world. It's only a human being is a consumer. He wants and wants and wants. That's why he's miserable. You become like that flowers. You become like that fruits that are there. You can appreciate. You can become positive. Once you become positive, you celebrate in this world. Every small little activity that you do is like a celebration in this world. When that celebration is there, that's what is Sarva Saubhagya Dayini. When does it happen? When you don't have any desires to chinta, worry about. Atma Chinta, you establish Atma Chinta, Mahasreshtaha, there are no more sankalpas, Sarva Sankalpa Varjitaha, Sarva Dukha Kshayakari, Sarva Saubhagya Vardini, Karanam, Jivita Sesham, Pranachinta, Samashitaha. So the contemplation of Pranachinta, contemplation of this prana, when practiced, it is the cause for the long life. So recently there was, YouTube has given one story of a woman. She's 124 years. 124 years. And then she said that interviewer interviewed and all that she gave about. And then there is another very important aspect is that she's from Europe, and she said she met the great Vincent van Gogh, and he's a painter. And she described about him, shabby, horrible, does not know how to dress, he doesn't know how to talk, and all those things. Yes, the exact descriptions about him that is there she has given, but she has personally seen. I like Van Gogh and his pictures also. And there is a reason why he was like that, because he does not belong to this world, he was belong to some different. He was always in that imagination, in that kind of a thing that was there. Like, for example, a small little example, it's a digression, but it's a very important thing, because the prana aspect has come here. There also, I always give the idea that prana is the only force which defies the gravity. That's why you put the seed in the soil, and maybe there is a super cover also on top of it. But the prana, when it gets manifested there, it brings the plant out of the soil all the way and takes it to the sky. Such an extraordinary, wonderful thing. 3, 4, 30, 40 feet high. And then it works there, produces flowers and fruits and all that. What an extraordinary prana that is there. Probably Vincent van Gogh has this idea. So therefore, his paintings are there where He put the plants which are almost touching the sky, and also animals whose legs are so big, bigger than giraffe legs, so but then they touch the sky. So it seems that his vision is about this prana. So he belongs to a different world. Therefore, his paintings were not appreciated during those days when he was there. In fact, his because nobody was buying that, he donated those paintings to his friends. They were having it. And then because that he donated, they would keep in that drawing room, that painting, and the moment that he goes away, they remove it and put it in the attic. Again, when they came to know that he is coming back, and then they put it again in that drawing room that they used to. But then later on, when he died, after that, Van Gogh pictures have become very popular, and then people started appreciating him. And generally, this is what is madman is appreciated after he dies, and that's what happened. And after he died, where that was there, their paintings, we also have that painting, and then they started putting in the drawing room. It has become very popular, famous. Not during his time, but it is after that. So this lady was a friend of Van Gogh, so I was very happy. So 124 years, then he was giving an interview, and then interviewer, out of humor, that lady said that hopefully I will once again interview next year, 125th birthday. Then this lady very innocently asked her, saying that, I think that your health is okay, no? There's no problem in your health. She's asking about her health, not about 125 years of her age. So that means, what is that secret of this 125? Absolutely, she has no desire, no nothing. Every moment is a celebration for her. That's what he says. Sarva dukkha kshayakari saubhagya sarva saubhagya karani karanam jivatasya yesham pranajanta samachirtaha. That means to say, he practiced the kanda. He's just only in the pranachinta, like the way that atmachinta, pranachinta, these are the two things. Atmachinta is the one where that you are in a non-performing mode, and when you are doing the performance, it's only the pranachinta, or in other words, it's the prana which is doing all these activities. Prana chalantu tad dharmaihi kamairva hanyatam manaha ananda buddhi purnasya na me kinchit pratishyati. I'm not touched by any of these things. Prana is doing its activity. This way, when somebody takes the prana, he is doing an activity. He is not burdened by any of those activities. As long as the prana drives that person, he just goes on. This is what he says. Eva mukte baya prashta pranachitta kimuchyate. Now, this is where basically Vaisistha comes to the next idea of Bhushundu, asking that, you said that about pranachinta. How do you do that? What do you mean by this pranachinta? And that's what now Bhushundu goes into the details of it. This is very important discussion and about the pranachinta. The moment anywhere that the pranachinta takes place, or uh, prana way of sadhana comes into the picture, we always remember Bhushundu, because Bhushundu gets into this prana vidya. Suggests us, next week we will see that how this prana vidya, pranachinta kimuchyate, what is meant by pranachinta, and that is why Bhushundu gives us an answer. We'll look into that. Let's stop it here. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.